Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yessir li emri ve hlul min lisani yefkahu kavli. Selamun aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuh. Inshallah, we will continue with the 14th droplet. This is 19th word, and we will continue with the 14th droplet.
14th Droplet. The Always Quran, the treasury of miracles and supreme miracle, proves the prophethood of Muhammad, peace be upon him, together with divine unity, so decisively that it leaves no need for further. And we shall give its definition and indicate one or two flashes of its miraculousness which have been the cause of criticism. The Always Quran, which makes known to us our sustainer, is thus. It is the pre-eternal translator of the great book of the universe, the discloser of the treasures of the divine names concealed in the pages of the earth and the heavens, the key to the truths hidden beneath these lines of events, the treasury of the favors of the most merciful and pre-eternal addresses, which come forth from the world of the unseen beyond the veil of this manifest world, the sun, foundation, and plan of the spiritual world of Islam, and the map of the worlds of the hereafter, the distinct expounder, lucid exposition, articulate proof, and clear translator of the divine essence, attributes, and deeds, the instructor, true wisdom, guide, and leader of the world of humanity. It is both a book of wisdom and law, and a book of prayer and worship, and a book of command and summons, and a book of invocation and divine knowledge. It is a book for all spiritual needs, and it is a sacred library offering books appropriate to the ways of all the saints, and veracious, the purified and the scholars, whose ways and paths are all different. Consider the flashes of miraculousness in its repetitions, which are imagined to be a fault. Since the Quran is both a book of invocation and a book of prayer and a book of summons, the repetition in it is desirable. Indeed, it is essential and most eloquent. It is not as the faulty imagine. For a mark of invocation is illumination through repetition. The mark of prayer is strengthening through repetition. The mark of command and summons is confirmation through repetition. Moreover, everyone is not capable of always reading the whole Quran, but is mostly able to read one surah. Therefore, since the most important purposes of the Quran are included in most of the longer surahs, each is like a small Quran. That is to say, so that no one should be deprived, certain of its aims like divine unity, the resurrection of the dead, and the story of Moses have been repeated. Also, like bodily needs, spiritual needs are various. Man is in need of some of them every breath. Like the body needs air, the spirit needs the word who, he. Some he is in need of every hour, like in the name of God, and so on. That means the repetition of verses arises from the repetition of need. It makes a repetition in order to point out the need and awaken and incite it, and to arouse desire and appetite. Also, the Quran is a founder. It is the basis of the clear religion and the foundation of the world of Islam. It changed human social life and is the answer to the repeated questions of its various classes. Repetition is necessary for a founder in order to establish things. Repetition is necessary to corroborate them. Confirmation and repetition are necessary to strengthen them. Also, it speaks of such mighty matters and minute truths that numerous repetitions are necessary in different forms in order to establish them in everyone's hearts. Nevertheless, they are apparently repetitions, but in reality, every verse has numerous meanings, numerous benefits, and many aspects and levels. In each place, they are mentioned with a different meaning for different benefits and purposes. Also, the Quran's being unspecific and concise in certain matters to do with cosmos is a flash of miraculousness for the purpose of guidance. It cannot be the target of criticism and is not a fault like some atheists imagine.
Well, so generally what I take from it, just wanted to hear what other people's thoughts were, but my general takeaway is that specifically the Quran he says it proves the prophethood of Muhammad, and he ties prophethood to the proof of divine unity. That's what the Quran is there for. Really, it's the essence of it is to make clear what divine unity. Not only is divine unity real, but it's true, and it's comprehensively true, and no one can dispute it. There's nothing more that can be said about divine unity after the Quran is spoken. It doesn't leave any stone unturned or any question unanswered. And in this way, it proves prophecy, because that is really the objective, or the main objective of prophecy, is to establish the truthfulness of divine unity within man. So, and then I guess he's talking about the criticism of it, and I think his point is that the Quran is not really a book like any other, I don't know if I really should call it a book, but speech, because it's, in that way, it's remarkably different than anything one can listen to or read or understand, because it's a speech from an absolute source, the creator of the universe. So when he speaks, I mean, people expect like a linear progression of ideas, like reading a novel, one chapter, like a storybook. But that's not really what the objective is. The Quran brings up all these concepts together and shows you how they all kind of come together. So you can find all aspects of belief in the shortest chapter and in the largest chapter. It doesn't make a difference, and in that way, it also kind of demonstrates or proves to one the comprehensiveness of the speaker. How is he that he is absolute? He speaks so comprehensively, even in a word or a verse or a chapter, and in that way, anyone can take anything from it. If they read even a small chapter or they read the entire Quran, anyone can take what they are looking from it, because you can find so many things, so many concepts and ideas and aspects that address maybe the intellect or human emotion, invocation, prayer. You can find that all together, and depending on what your interest is, that's what you can find from what you're reading or listening to. So that's kind of what I generally took away, and then with regards to the criticism repetition, which I guess you hear from a lot of like Orientalist scholars or people who who when they initially try to read the Quran, they get confused, because they flip through it and they think, like I said, they're reading some sort of like a biblical passage, a story being told, and they're kind of surprised when it jumps from one narration to another, or it interjects, but that's because they're missing what the purpose is, because it's not a story. It's addressing the human condition as the person is. And even personally, when you experience something, you have so many things happening at once that you're experiencing or feeling. You're not a static object. You only think one thing at once, or you may have conflicting ideas that you're holding, or conflicting feelings. And that's what the Quran is there for. It is to address humanity, not like in a way for entertainment or just kind of to pass time away, but to address one's humanity. And another aspect it brings up repetition is that in the human condition, the man needs to be reminded to repeat things, because it's insufficient to say something or do something once, because every time you might do something, you might experience it differently or think about it differently. And saying in the name of God can have 100 different meanings to you, or different aspects to you, depending on what your condition is. So, I mean, that's kind of another way he addresses one of the criticisms. But I'll stop there. If anybody else has any thoughts about what was read today. If Osman or Birkan or Abdurrahman or any of the other people online, Faraz, Asim, Aisha Noor.
Jazakallah khair. So, anyone here wants to add anything, Abdurrahman? Would you like?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. No, I'm just asking. Oh, there's one thing. That was a very beautiful summary, by the way. So when I was reading this text, and I realized many things come to my mind automatically, because I kind of memorized them. Things like, I have to read the Quran in the context of myself, in my time today here, and or who's speaking when I read the Quran, and so on. These kind of things are, I guess, after all these discussions, I kind of memorize, which is, from one aspect, is good, but from another aspect is, I guess, it's getting ordinary. It's losing its, the spark, maybe with heat, the fire. Sorry? Yeah, it becomes like imitating myself. So I said, okay, maybe then I should, pay attention to the text instead of just memorizing, what I remember. And then it becomes really challenging to put meanings to all these sentences, the words. For instance, we read addresses which come forth from the world of unseen beyond the veil, beneath the veil of this manifest world, the sun, foundation, and plan of the spiritual world of Islam. So I can make sense of slightly make sense of what it means coming from world of unseen, beneath the veil of manifest world, maybe just a little bit. But the way I read the sound foundation and plan of the spiritual world of Islam, it just, it's something good, nothing beyond that. I cannot make sense of this sentence much beyond than, it is the founder of the religion of Islam, or, I don't know, it's a source of light for human. It says sun. Right? So should I just read these sentences as, they're just giving me listing some good adjectives, like attractive adjectives for the Quran? Or, as an example, this sentence, what do you think? The sound foundation and plan of the spiritual world of Islam. And what should I get from this sentence? If I'm not, into just imitating or repeating what I already know.
I think that requires a conscious awareness of what you're doing, and I agree with you. I think it's which I think what Nursi is saying here is kind of the miraculous aspect of the Quran, is that the speaker understands human nature, and that he's subject to become lazy and repeat or imitate without thinking. And the fact that it's not there's no I don't want to say there's no pattern, but it's not a pattern that you're used to when you think about man-made speech or man-made human written, I guess, books. It the Quran, in a way, if you really think about it, forces you to think, critically think, and reflect because of the nature of its speech. Yeah, so I agree with you. You can read, you can say, oh, a plan of the spiritual world of Islam and the map of the worlds of the hereafter. It goes in one ear out the other, and you never really think about it. I mean, what it means, it sounds nice, but I think Nursi's getting that or writing that because that's how he sees the layout and the nature of the Quranic speech to be, rather than just something to recite or imitate.
Okay, so both of you are really hitting a point here, mashallah. So why don't we try to do that, with each sentence that we are studying, like really see that how it impacts our relationship with the Quran. For example, from last week's discussion, I was thinking when we discussed about the pre-eternal address and me being addressed, I was thinking, really, do I feel that, when that, there's somebody who is really taking care of me or really giving me attention and addressing me. Hey, listen to me. I am talking to you, like a special attention, like really making one feel special. And I was wondering, like, how can I come to that, from the all-wise Quran? Like, I know this is a lot of definitions that are being given in each phrase is pretty heavily loaded from how I'm seeing it, right? I mean, let's study this. For example, what does it mean, which come forth from so all these favors are coming forth from the world of the unseen. Like, it's a very mysterious kind of language. Yeah, I mean, as both of you were saying, like, yeah, it sounds very nice. Yeah, it's coming from God. That's fine. Let's move on. Right, but really, let's think about this a little bit. What does it mean coming from the world of the unseen and beyond the veil of this manifest world? I mean, is that how our relationship with the Quran is really? Are we seeing that in terms of, really grasping that, this is something really serious, this book, whatever it's, this speech, and where it's coming from is, I need to maybe focus a little bit more and pay more attention. I mean, I'm talking for myself. I'm not just for myself. I'm really, really trying my best, at least, to see how I can really see that this is really coming from a sustainer who is taking care of me. And then highlighting this part, yeah, you see everything that you have, all these favors. And then I have two questions. So what are the favors I'm getting? And then do I see that these favors are actually coming from a source that is not part of this universe, right? Beyond the veil of this manifest world. So can we try to do that, please?
Yeah, we can go by paragraph. So, I mean, if you want to start, if you want to give or if anybody else wants to give their thoughts on at least the first paragraph, specifically that which relates to messengership and divine unity, and the Quran being the proof of his messengership, because of its address of divine unity. If anybody has any thoughts on that.
So the way I remember, especially the first paragraph, so far we studied different aspects of the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and have some other indications were, or some other proofs were proving his messengership, also making us be acquainted with him, knowing him. Now here we studying the message he brought to us, the Quran, and how this Quran being a decisive proof for his messengership. Because when we look at the message that it carries, the Quran carries, and the way it makes sense to us, or how we make connection with this message, it leaves no room for any other possibility other than whoever brought this message must be assigned by the author of this message. And then in the second paragraph, the parts that I remember is that we studied that it's all starts with our being a servant, Abd, and in return knowing the sustainer, the Lord. So relation between Abd and the Lord we mentioned, and how this book or how this Quran make us know the sustainer. Because we are aware, let's put it that way, like if we are aware that we are servant and we are sustained, then we look for the sustainer, and this Quran and the message that being carried make us know the sustainer that we are looking for. And also we discussed the divine names, how Quran make a translation of this universe into the language of divine names, and how it makes sense of what we experience in our life. Again, in the language of divine names. Otherwise, it doesn't explain how sun rotates and then the earth rotates around the sun and so on. But it talks about how somebody put the sun as a lamp for us. This is what I remember so far. And also it talks about the favors of the most merciful and pre-eternal addresses. I guess we also discussed, even before that, the pre-eternal translation. We discussed what does it mean to be a translation to be pre-eternal. And the way, again, I remember we discussed that whatever situation we are in or whatever time we are living in, this message is addressed to us because it's pre-eternal. Like whoever speaking behind is an absolute being. And we discussed the timeless aspect of the message. And this is what I remember so far.
Well, Jazakallah khair. I mean, does anybody want to add anything to what Bear Khan was saying before we get to the part we read today regarding the Sun Foundation? I mean, that's kind of what I remember also from last week as well, generally speaking. Somebody want to speak?
Yeah. So very quickly, I guess what I'm thinking about is, I'm sure you guys discussed this for the sentence that it says, where's the window of the text? It is a book for all spiritual needs. And I don't know what the original is, but I found myself asking, when I read scripture, what do I look for? How will I read it? And whether I'm approaching it to address spiritual needs. And I guess that probably needs some discussion of does this mean? Like psychological needs? Is it the same as spiritual needs, or is there something, some element of the spirit? And what I can think of it as, psychological needs could be more temporarily, my psychological condition can temporarily alter between certain states, and I can feel this way or feel that way, like psychologically. But I guess when I say spiritual, it means something more abiding, something more, something that's behind the changing psychological states, something deeper. I don't know. And so it is for those needs more, not simply to have, psychologically, let's say, a sudden elation of mood, but sort of deeper spiritual needs. And then connecting that and thinking about this idea of the translator of the universe. And again, taking it a bit literally, saying, one of the needs, it seems, then is the need for translation, and that only arises if I say, well, this is not making sense, so I need something, a translation. The question of translation only arises when the original doesn't make sense. And so the idea is that, I find myself in a universe that at some level, makes complete sense. It's self-evident what I need to do, like what I need to, everything is self-evident, it seems. I learn the names of things, this is for this purpose, how it works, and I can sort of, find my way in the world. And so there is self-evident aspect to things, or at least it's made to look self-evident. That I ought to be nice to people, I ought to do this, I ought to. But then there is this idea that, well, there is some translation of this book of the universe. It means that this book of the universe is opaque to me. I don't understand. And so I guess then the idea that everything in the Quran or any such scripture that what I should look for is to address that need that arises from not understanding what things are, putting into question that what seems self-evident is not spiritually satisfactory. It might be self-evident, it might be useful, it might be, in other things, but some sort of spiritual need remains unmet. And if in every single time that I turn to any single word or verse in the Quran with this idea, with this need for translation, that would be interesting to say, to catch myself, every time I read something, did I read it, or what would I make of this if I were to suspend my convictions about what things are and I know what they are, and if I were to get in touch with my quote-unquote spiritual needs as much as I can, what would I make of this? Does this text speak to me then to that need of translation for something that I don't understand? So, that it's an interesting way to describe the Quran as translating and then tying it to this idea of the need, spiritual need. So, those were just thoughts floating in my head, but I'm sure you guys discussed in detail, so we can move forward.
I think you bring up a good point. Going to the sentence or phrase we left off on, the sun's foundation and plan of the spiritual world of Islam and the map of the worlds of the hereafter. It really it kind of brings up your question. What does it mean to for the Quran to be a foundation for the spiritual world of Islam? And what I think he means by this is the Islamic view of, I don't mean, how do I phrase this? The Islamic side to things, or the things the meaningful aspect of things that have which give it a spirit, in a sense. In a sense, that's what needs translating and understanding, and addresses that human need of trying to understand, recognizing that there is something meaningful out there, but what does it mean? I can't do it. I can't figure it out alone. And I need some guide, some manual to understand what is this meaningful aspect, which he calls the spirit, which I think he's referring to as the spiritual world of Islam. If anybody has any other thoughts or disagreements, but it's kind of, as you said, addressing that human need to try to understand, because there's a recognition of, things have a meaning. Things are not just, here today, gone tomorrow for no reason. I know things exist and they must have some meaning. I can perceive it. I know there must be something out there, but what is it? And the Quran, I guess, is there to sort of address your need to understand it and explain what that meaning is. Does anyone else have thoughts on kind of this, what Faraz is saying in this phrase here?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, that was exactly one of my questions. I was also thinking about what this means, the spiritual world of Islam. And I mean, you pretty much explained it really well. So the meaning side of this world, the universe, like, why is he calling it the sun, foundation? And I think, just like for our bodily needs, we need the sun. And then in the same analogy, our spirit also, as Faraz was pointing at, the spirit also needs that satisfaction. There's a lot of needs the spirit has, and this whole meaning. I mean, I'm not sure how we're defining this phrase spiritual world of Islam, but I'm taking it as Suhail, you were explaining it, the meaning side of what this world means, and at least addressing all the meaning that at least comes to my human side, my human being, the things that I can decipher using my, feelings and senses through the tools that I am given, and make sense of things, right? Including, where my soul or spirit is kind of comfortable and feels satisfied that there is, by reading this particular message, the Quran, whatever translation or whatever news is bringing, it's really, sits well into my being and really establishes the solid ground or the foundation, and, of something that really makes sense and is really, really worth holding on to.
So in the text, he uses alemi maneviye İslamiye. So like this manevi, the word mana or meaning is translated as spiritual. I guess this is like this word comes in two tuples. It's either, when we say normally, we say alem Islam. And if you say alem Islam, it will be translated most likely into English as Muslim world. It would be understood as such, Muslim world. So I guess to emphasize the difference, he is saying that the meaning aspect of Islam, or the world that is carried with the Islamic world, whatever that means. And the way I understand that is, so the distinction between Islam, so what is Islam, what is Iman? Because Iman is my conviction about the purpose of the existence, what this existence is. But when it comes to Islam, to me it feels like now I am starting to act according to my conviction. The example that once a friend gave me about that is, for example, I can say that I might be 100% convinced that the house that I am now in belongs to Birkan. I am very much convinced about that. But I might behave according to my own rules, not according to how Birkan wants me to act in here. Or, for example, being convinced that this house belongs to Birkan, I shouldn't be acting as if this house is mine. But if I start breaking things in this house, and if Abdurrahman asks me,
Well, this house is Birkan's house. I would say, yeah, definitely. I didn't say that otherwise. I mean, I am 100% sure that this house belongs to him. But just I am not acting according to my conviction. So in this sense, Islam means I am acting according to my conviction. I am submitting to my conviction. So when he says in here, the spiritual world of Islam, then, what I understand out of that is, to me, this sounds more like it's acting to human perception about how I would act and how people would act according to the conviction that we would achieve. And Quran is, then he is saying that the engineer, or what did he say, foundation plan of the such an Islamic world or Islamic worldview. What's it?
It's Islamiyya.
Islamiyya.
Mm-hmm. Is it the same meaning as Islam means? Is Islam same as Islam or Islamic? Is it the same terminology? Do they mean the same thing?
So you need to open it up. You mean that Islamic sounds like more of a group or what?
No, I'm just there is no preconceived notion in the question. I'm just curious if do they mean the same thing or they actually have these nuances and subtleties in the words. Because in the original text he especially uses Islamiyya.
So I mean practically I would expect, for instance, let's say there's this let's assume there's a certain group of people that is attending a sheikh. Or in the old times, there were those tekkes. And people of those tekke, like this tariqah, they were different than the rest of the people. Like they were more kind, they were more forgiving, whatever. Those good character was being manifest in them. So a person who is maybe a very rude man gets into or becomes part of this group and eventually starts adopting those characters. So to me, this is the meaning that is being manifest through the lives of those people, ideally as a result of their conviction of the belief. But this is how it manifests it in their lives. So what is the plan or the source of this behavior? The Quran is source of this manifestation. This is what I am understanding as the world of Islam or spiritual world of Islam. Because this meaning aspect of Islam presents itself in the lives of followers of this scripture. But again, not to say that there will always be someone who is going to, let's say, just do the actions without really meaning anything out of that, just blindly copying it or imitating it, whatever. This is not really the point, and not to, I mean, it doesn't add anything to this discussion. But this good behavior, you see that this guy is seriously and sincerely acting in this way, and he's different than the rest. It would be very natural for you to ask, why is this man that different? And yesterday I forwarded you the email that you have written about the people of Iran 4 years ago when you were having this travel. He has written a travel log 4 years ago. In there, for example, you were saying that people of, I guess it was for Isfahan, they are super friendly and very generous. And you were there was a sentence you were saying that I am feeling ashamed of my prejudices, and you were blaming media, whatever, for that. So it's very human to say that, why are those people so friendly? What is the source of this good character? So now, I guess this, in here, so Islam should be manifest in our lives, or at least this is what Quran is there for, to really guide people. And then its manifestation to human life is being mentioned in here, saying that you see some good character. This is because of Quran. Quran is really the sun, the source, the plan of this spiritual or the meaning-wise aspect of Islam.
Can you have belief without conviction in Islam?
Belief without conviction?
Yeah.
Isn't belief conviction?
No, because you were separating the two. You said you could believe maybe there is a God, but you don't actually pray, for example.
Oh, no. I was separating acting
Conviction.
according to my conviction.
Conviction and submission.
Yeah, conviction and submission would be. So belief and conviction is the same word in here, but I am not submitting to my conviction. I am saying that I am 100% sure that I am not the owner of myself. But still, when somebody praises me, I cannot give up my egotism.
If I want to say something.
That's an interesting possibility, but I have a suggestion that what if suggestion, you can take it or leave it, but what if one were to look at this sentence and say the sun, foundation, and plan of the spiritual world of Islam, which is the original phrase you mentioned, and if you take really Islam in its more literal sense, and in a more literal sense of how you would describe the Arabic word Islam, what could it be? Peace or peacefulness or submission, surrender, or these kind of, ultimately it is related to some kind of salam, some kind of, agreeableness, being, rest, peace, submission, all of these kinds of words can come to mind. And attitudes can come to mind. And what if we said that, this meaning, the meaning, you could say, the reason, the Quran is there to provide reasons for me to be at peace. So it is the foundation of a way of a foundation and a plan for coming to feel at ease and surrendered, peaceful, to surrender peacefully, let's call it, maybe. It is the plan for doing so. It is the foundation for doing so. So, in other words, I should expect for it to offer me the reasons and meanings that would lead me to be at peace in the world as I find it. So I should expect from it maybe then I should therefore address it by saying, here is my reason for not being at peace. How can I be at peace with, or reconcile with, or be, be at peace with, surrendered or submitted to, to affirm something as this is right, be at ease, be at peace. How can I have this attitude towards a thing? And maybe I can come to the Quran and say, look, I don't feel, and this is what the reason I don't feel at ease in this world, or that feel that I'm, these are my problems. This is why I don't feel at ease. I don't have meaning for this, for example. I don't know the meaning of that. What is this? And so I should expect the Quran as if it's saying that it will illuminate, the sun, and it is the foundation so that it will, in a sense that I don't have any basis to feel at peace, and to the plan. So in a sense that I want to, but I don't know how to be at peace. So sun, foundation, and plan is really sort of addressing these questions of what is this meaning? And I don't have it, so I feel completely unstable, and I don't have any, although I want to feel at peace, but I have no foundation, no reason for it. Things don't appear to have the meaning that the sun in the light of the sun, the metaphor will make it known. And I don't have a plan. I don't know how to get what the world is saying. I don't know how to understand its speech. I don't understand what the message is. I don't understand such that I would be at peace with the things as they are. So in other words, one could, avoid kind of going into the direction of, Islam and Iman differences, which is another, I think, a can of worms. We can have a whole, discussion and session on why one would make the distinction, why not, etc. But if just sticking to the more general meaning of the word Islam as being at peace, then the Quran is defined here as the foundation for and the plan for attaining to such a meaning of the world that it results in being at peace spiritually. And so, in other words, I feel that, I don't know why Nursi wrote this text really, but what I can get from it is that maybe these definitions are meant to, or I can take them as saying, when I read the Quran, I should bear in mind with what attitude I should approach it. And when I say that, okay, this is defining the Quran as a sun and foundation of a spiritual or the meaning side of Islam, understood ultimately as being in a state of submission, in a state of surrender at peace, then I should expect this. I should build my foundation of my peace in what I learned from this text, and not try to build that foundation in other ways, that I might, because it seems that I may have other ways of stabilizing my otherwise unstable world, giving things certain meanings and places so that of my own kind of, expedient reasons, because those are things that work, and so to look at the Quran and say to establish my attitude to life and to everything, and to establish that the foundation, I make the Quranic, what I'm learning here, what I'm about to learn here, as the foundation of that attitude, and see if that actually will give me sufficient reason and sufficient basis, and would illuminate things in ways that would make surrender possible. Make that, give me a plan for that. So just to kind of, if that's a proposal, if we are not, we can still go down the road of thinking of Islam and Iman and the distinctions, but if we just took it as generally an attitude of surrender and submission, then one could just take the sentence to be defining the Quran in terms of what I should expect from it and how I should read it, what I should expect from it.
So there's one thing sure, go ahead, please.
Oh, no, I was going to see if anybody wanted to say something, but go ahead.
Okay, so that's all right. So the last sentence that we studied, the sound foundation and plan of the spiritual world of Islam, I guess how it continues is also important to understand the sentence. It says, and the map of the worlds of the hereafter. The plan of the spiritual world of Islam and the map of the worlds of the hereafter. And at the beginning, the way it was the translator, the pre-eternal translator of the great book of the universe, so making things clearer for us, translating them, making sense of them, and also depicting a plan in front of us, giving a map. It's as if, giving us a sense of home. Like in the way I understand it, the spiritual world of Islam, the plan of the spiritual world of Islam, it's making me feel as if I'm in a home. Because I know around, I know what's going on around. And also, when it says the map of the hereafter, it's again, it speaks to my worries or speaks to my wondering about what is after that, or what is behind that, or what it means. Like, we can take a hereafter in different senses, I guess. But in each case, it gives me a map saying, this is one possible path, this is another possible path, this is another possible path that you can take. And this is where it takes you, this is where that path takes you, and so on. The same thing for this world as well. In this world, I also need a sun to illuminate my path, and also a plan, and also foundation. When it says foundation, it's like, I guess, as Yusuf was saying, like giving me an explanation, kind of like, this is the purpose, or this is the reason of what you see there. Like, if you enjoy niceness of people, or if you enjoy your friends trying to explain you something, this is the foundation of it. And I guess I can take it another way as, this is the way to reach it. This is the way to reach to the spiritual world of Islam. And what it means, spiritual world of Islam, I guess it would change from one person to another, because the word spiritual itself is so, loaded, or maybe, I don't want to say vague, because it's not that ambiguous, but I guess it has all these different meanings, and I really believe that it would change from one person to another. Like, I know a lot of people, for instance, my colleagues or my friends, for them, the spiritual world is a place that they can be just mindful of things. Or, they do meditation, yoga, whatever, and they find peace there. If this is for them, yes, this is for them. But Quran gives me puts a foundation for that. Because when you talk about mindfulness or mental health or whatever, right? Just use it in a sentence and try to live it. It's usually baseless. Like, why should I be mindful? Why? Or why should I, try to relax and forget things? But Quran's giving a foundation for that. It's illuminates. So I have these desires, I have these needs in this world. I want to be living in a peaceful world. I want to be living in a meaningful world, a purposeful world. A world which looks at my spirit. And Quran gives me a foundation for that. And also that a plan in front of me. This is how to reach it, or this is the path that takes you. Another thing I want to say is, the way we look, or the way author looks at the Quran here, as a translator, as a son, as a foundation, I guess it's easy to discuss, easy to, let's say, understand, but I really believe that we shouldn't forget, or we shouldn't fail to realize. This is so revolutionary. This way of looking at Quran is so revolutionary. I'm not just saying to, credit the author, but just to remind us that it is not something just we can just read and say, okay, yeah, I understood. This is so revolutionary. We should be so surprised, like I really sincerely believe that. Like, when I read this part and ask myself, like, translator of the universe, like, am I in such a situation that when I cannot make sense of something, I go to Quran and try to make sense of it? Do I really do that? Or am I just reading this as a beautiful texts about Quran. So yesterday I was discussing with some friends, like the message that the Quran brings is so revolutionary, but the way we take it and the way we live it, it usually makes it so ordinary. And we lose the heat, we lose the fire that it introduces in our life to keep us alive, to keep us, keep our eyes open, to be surprised. And I guess this way of looking at Quran as a translator of the universe, the sun, the foundation of a spiritual world, this is so revolutionary. We shouldn't lose this sense. We shouldn't lose our sense of being surprised with such an explanation of Quran. Because I was listening, like another guy talking about Quran, and he was saying, we just making too much of fuss about the Quran. It's so easy. It tells us he's I don't want to say scholar, but I don't know. İlahiyatçı in Turkish.
Theologian?
A theologian, okay? He's a theologian, and he's saying that it is so easy. Tells us that not to steal, not to lie, and what is difficult to understand that? You shouldn't lie, you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't do that, or you should do that. But this way of looking at Quran, again, I'm using the same word again, just like the repetitions we study. It's so revolutionary. This is not something we used to. Like even us, like discussing all these years, I'm just looking at myself. I'm still not used to use Quran or try to benefit from Quran in that way. I'm still not used to it. So every time we should read, we should be surprised. Oh, is that really? Can I really use Quran as a guidance? Can it be a sun or the foundation for plan or a plan of the word that I'm looking for? So that was my comment.
I just wanted to add a few things here. Kind of what you and Faraz brought up regarding, you brought up the idea that some people, meditate, or Faraz said to give something meaning. My concern is that somebody can say that the Quran is just another explanation of the world. Is it another, or is it the explanation for what the world is? And it really, it begs the question, am I giving something meaning, or is there some meaning actually out there and I'm trying to understand what it is? So is there sort of an objective meaning that points to an objective truth that I'm trying to subjectively perceive or comprehend? And that's how I take what Norsi is saying here, in that you can say I meditate, or I find something that gives me meaning, but does it really do that? Does it correspond to the reality of the universe? And the spiritual world of Islam, to me, says that the things themselves, they have a meaning, and it's that which points specifically, and as for us, as you can't really deconstruct Islam, it's so many things at once, but the essential thing is something that points to a one not of its own nature specifically, and that leads you down the road of who is that one? Am I being taken care of by that one? Am I being provided by that one? So many questions, but it does address that there is not a one of many meanings, but there is the meaning out there. There is the truth out there that I'm trying to comprehend. So I don't. It's, to me, it's not possible for someone to say that, oh well, there, you have your viewpoint of the world, and you can have it. I have mine, and I feel satisfied. To me, it's not possible for somebody to be satisfied outside of when I use the word Islamic worldview, I mean the sort of meaningful aspect that that the Quran is addressing. And Nursi then goes, as you said, map of the world of the hereafter, because the universe, in a sense, it addresses both aspects of man. His need to understand, what am I doing here? As Nursi says, like those three questions everybody asks, I think it's, where have I come from? Where am I going? And, for what reason am I? And the human being always wants to know, where are they going? What is it? That's nice. I understand something, but, so what? And map of the world of the hereafter says that, as Birkan was saying, there's something, the Quran addresses, there's something that's beyond the nature of this world that you can comprehend. It's not in its essence, not what it really is, but you can comprehend its necessity, and you can, in a sense, experience it in this world to a degree. Your need for sort of, eternal happiness, well-being, and everything in this universe points towards that, and you can experience that sort of satisfaction in this world. So the Quran, in a sense, addresses these human questions that kind of are always lingering, and they point to how the world really is, not just one of 100 possible different meanings, objective meanings. And then the second thing I wanted to say, I think, Faraz asked, why did Nursi write this? I think I'm like speculating, but he, in a sense, he contrasting the spiritual world of Islam, the map of the worlds of the hereafter. That's a very non-materialistic view of the world. Atheistic, materialistic, nihilistic view of the world would be to say, there is no meaning. When you think about it, to speak of no meaning is meaning in and of itself. Or to, when I speak of a foundation, or if actually anything in the universe, I'm really talking about my perception of it. That's a meaningful aspect. Or even if I say there's no meaning, that's a meaning in and of itself. And he's, in a sense, saying that's not possible, because it doesn't correspond. Not only doesn't it correspond to reality out there, but it doesn't correspond to your human sort of ingrained expectations, understanding, needs at all. And the last thing I'll say, drawing back to what Birkan said maybe at the beginning about repetitiveness, or saying things over and over again. In a sense, I could be personally a materialist in my own life. I mean, I could say I believe, but a materialist in the sense that I just take things for granted. I don't really question or ask myself, does this thing really whatever I'm experiencing or going through, how does it correspond to what my human expectations are, and what do I understand from it? If I don't do that, if I just go and, let's say I go have dinner and I eat for just the sake of eating, that I'm just a materialist in that sense, no different. And the Quran says it's not possible for the human being to be in that way, because he's always wanting to know, always questioning, always trying to understand how does this fit into his worldview, even to something as small as routine, or you think inconsequential as eating or speaking or feeling. It's they have some meaningful aspect that address not only the here and now, but also, as he says, map of the worlds of the hereafter, your human expectation. What do you sort of desire? So that's what I wanted to add to that. Does anybody else want to add anything?
I just wanted to highlight on the meaningful part. I think that's really the essence of things, because even though I'm just like thinking, if I'm not introduced to anything, like all these vocabulary words or Islam, Quran, whatever, right? Human beings, we're looking for meaning. We're made in a way that we want to make sense of things. We want meaningful meaning out of things. And I don't want to say that you may, like, you know, when you look at the wisdom behind things, you may get like a temporary meaning, but it's not a meaningful meaning. Like we're made in a way where we want, like really we want to be satisfied, like a meaning, like an everlasting meaning, I would say, like something that really that will satisfy my human expectations and desire. And obviously, if I'm really convinced within myself that the one who has made me has not left me like this without any resource to help me, you know, make sense of what am I to do here, like all those 3 questions that we're mentioning. Like not only those 3 questions, I think it's all in one packet. Like really, what am I to do here, right? Let alone where do I come from, where am I going? No, like literally, like if you think about your own state of being at this moment. So the one who's made me definitely must provide me with answer or like a resource that I can seek out to, which should really correspond. Like if I'm seeking out, then definitely I should be given the answers to what I'm seeking out, and that's should be confirmable within my own being here. Like that's common sense, and that's very normal. I mean, I don't have to go somewhere. I don't know. What I'm given is like what I have right now, and so whatever I'm left with in terms of resources, guidance, to make sense of my existence here. That definitely should help me out in my journey here. So, and the meaning side of things is really, then I would say, that's what I would refer to as, you know, what the author is saying here, the Quran, or all those, what do you call, theoretical words, Islam and all that. So just wanted to highlight that.
No, I think the last thing.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just, I guess as a general comment. So the meanings that were mentioned, alhamdulillah, they were good meanings. But throughout this paragraph, he already mentioned the Quran being a translator for the whatever we observe in the existence. So Quran being the translator of the universe. So, and while we were talking about that, we said that it describes the meaning of existence. So I guess this sentence that we were studying might be something different. So let's try to understand this sentence in itself, saying that the spiritual meaning of Islam, world of Islam. So this is why what I'm feeling is we are sometimes going in circles, and whatever sentence we read, we might even get tendency to interpret all of them within the same things. So sometimes I feel like we are, for example, in this sentence, I guess the spiritual world of Islam, this was a phrase that might have been studied within itself. So, as a general comment, I would say that although I 100% agree with the comments that were made, they are true, but are they really explaining this sentence? Or the author already saying some other more clear sentences for such meanings, he's using a different sentence in here. So
Where can you please locate the sentence?
So when we were saying that I'm talking about, let's say, a previous sentence which were pointing to such a meaning. So pre-eternal translator of the great book of the universe. For example, this sentence is indicating that the universe is being explained, the meaning of universe is being explained by Quran. But when we come to this other sentence, it says it is sound foundation and plan of the spiritual world of Islam. So I'm feeling like there must be something slightly different in here. Of course, I mean, if we didn't read the first sentence, whatever we have been saying so far would be very much considered in here, and what is said is not wrong. But what I'm saying is maybe this sentence might be pointing to something else.
How does he write it in Turkish, if that makes any difference?
Can I just like simply share what I understand from the sentence? Like just reading the Turkish, the original version, this statement, what it means to me at least, or that's what I understand from it. Quran is the source that defines the Islami. I will say Islami especially because it seems like there is some sort of subtlety there. Alem, right? That's what the original word is. Alemi manevi Islami. So Quran defines an alem or a world or a worldview that is Islami. And it is the sun, it is the foundation and the plan. So it is like much more, it sounds like it is much more comprehensive. So it may be at some point what Yusuf was referring to, it translates the existence for you, but here it almost like takes it one step further and establish a complete Islamic worldview together with the belief system, including the practices.
So you're saying, I'm just trying to understand.
It defines a way of life.
We started with the translation or making sense of the universe. We started with making sense of the universe, and then we started to see what's happening in the name of the divine names. Like we established, let's say, a connection with the source. I'm just recalling the sentences that we started. Sorry, I will start from the beginning. I always do that. Sorry. We realize that there needs to be a translation of what we are experiencing, and we look for this translation. And the Quran started translating what we are experiencing, what we see. And the way it does, it's used the divine names as a new language.
Let's just like open that up a little bit. So like there is an existence, and Quran comes as the speech of the like creator of that existence and translates that existence for you to tell you what it means. Mm-hmm. And it takes one step further than like from the existence itself, it extracts the meaning, extracts the names of the creator himself to make himself known to you. So then you get to know the creator with different like attributes and qualities of the creator.
And through the process, again, continue with the sentence, through this process of making sense, it reveals the truth hidden beneath all these the experiences we have.
Which opens up another dimension for you, which is the hereafter that also talks about.
Yes.
So which is eternity, that is like very essential like need of man. So like establishes another like dimension.
Yes.
And then he takes it one step further, comes to the like the Islam, which like step by step defines like a complete way of life and how you perceive the existence itself and how you put that in practice in terms of like everyday living.
And just before that, he also talks about the favors of the most merciful.
So you become an addressee of them.
Exactly. You become an addressee of the most merciful. And so it's just such a situation that now you starting rebuilding your world, right? Before it was something needs to be translated because it's constantly being translated, but it was something, let's say, not making any sense or giving you all these perplexities, right? You started with this translation, and on top of this translation, now you rebuilding your world, your worldview entirely, which reflects to your practice, the actions, which reflects to how you act or how you treat other people.
So this is
how you communicate, how you think.
We said that this is a like up and rub relationship, right? At the beginning, when you were summarizing the last week discussion, that's what we said, like we started with. So you start that kind of like relationship with your Lord, with your Rab, and step by step you come to a point that what you were explaining, you come to a point that like that becomes like a living relationship in your own understanding, in your own worldview. So like there is belief in it, obviously, like your convictions, and then according to your own convictions, how you are acting. That also like defined by the Quran. I think this like very statement kind of takes the, I guess, the topic towards that like completeness of the whole understanding.
I don't want to sound really cliche, but I guess here in this sentence also, like it defines the balance between this world and the hereafter as well, because it's using in the same sentence, right? It's so talking about the being sound foundation and the plan of the world of Islam, the spiritual world of Islam, and the map of hereafter. So it's still talking about, I guess it's saying that, you know, whatever you extract from Quran, it is about your hereafter, what you get out of it, the meaning, the purpose, whatever, but also it's about the way you live. It's about the actions you do. It's about how you communicate with the people as well, for instance.
Just to add one word in here, when we say act, whatever, these words might be sometimes, we might be allergic to those words.
The way that you respond back to the being the addressee of the creator of the universe.
I guess we can, you know, at least myself, I'm comfortable with living these words to like people themselves, like whatever they want, however they want to feel them. But for me, I always say that, like I'm a simple-minded person. For me, the action is like how I wake up, how I speak with people, how I pray, how I eat, whatever. And then I make some sense of them, connections with them and others and so on. But for me, at least, it's simple. How I act, how I, you know, walk on the street.
But like that action, like your interaction with the rest of the beings around you, as well as your like interaction with your Lord. So like Quran also, it defines or determines, based on the worldview that you establish, how you should be interacting with the rest of the creation, as well as how you should be like in communication with your like.
I guess that's the reason he says the spiritual world of Islam. Like whatever you do should look at your spirit. So it should, you know, make sense for your spirit. There's the connection to the Lord, I guess, comes into play. Like the way you walk is important as much as you make the connection with your needs of your spirit.
Again, I may be wrong, but like I just want to emphasize it one more time. It doesn't say Islam, it says Islami. If it says Islam, it's a noun. If it says Islami, it's an adjective. So there may be a difference there.
This is Islami, yeah.
What does, because in English, plan has many different meanings. Like I can interpret a plan of the spiritual world of Islam being, this is how he has organized the world to be, how he has, as you were pointing, both you guys were pointing out, or all three of you, how he has ordained man's life to be. Or I could understand plan being, this is who I am. When you mentioned responding to my creator, or showing thankfulness, or knowing how to interact with the rest of the world, I can say that's the plan that's already within me. And the distinction I'm trying to make is sometimes people can perceive plan to be externally applied. This is how you should behave. When Birkan was saying you shouldn't steal or you shouldn't do that, rather than does the plan correspond to who I am? Is this the plan under which I've been made as well, in which I interact with the universe? So I don't know what the word is in Turkish, but plan can have different meanings, I guess, in this context.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I don't know what you said, Brother Sohail, about the plan. Like his plan the divine plan encompasses like how I'm made. I didn't catch that point, so I just wanted.
No, so I was asking, how is Nursi using the word plan here? That's really my question. So that was my question. I don't know if anyone else can answer that, but how is he using plan? I mean, how do you guys understand him using plan?
Like the way the order is set up here in the universe. I mean, that's what, because I'm like applying it to my case here and now. So whatever, as a human being, whatever my needs are, human expectations are, I mean, that's how it is, right? It's, that's how I am. So that's the plan. That's the, what do you say? Not a pattern, but yeah, the order set up in the universe. I mean, like where I have human needs, expectations, my human side doesn't get satisfied with the transitory experiences here. And so obviously that's like a need that's longing for something eternal or everlasting. I mean, that's a starting point, if y'all want to elaborate on it.
Yeah, I don't know if Osman or Yusuf want to add anything, but when they were discussing this, but I was just saying, to tie in what they were saying, plan being comprehensive, is that kind of what he's saying, in that the plan of I guess the spiritual world of Islam is, does that mean that this is who I am, this is how I'm instructed, this is how, if you want to have a relationship with the universe and really its creator, its source of existence, this is how you must interact with the universe, this is how you interact with things, with other people, with other beings, other creatures. This is how you communicate with me. My question was, is this what he means by plan? And that was my general question.
So I would like to give an example. Let's say in Dostoevsky's novels, he talks about Russia, but and refers to Russia as she. But once he talks about Russia, he is not talking about the land or the mainland, or the army weapons, or the buildings, infrastructure. It's talking about the social fabric of Russia when it refers to Russia, the characteristics of people. And he's very much concerned with the psychology of the people, his age, how they are changing. And he refers to that as Russia. And certainly this is not the material Russia. And it's about this characteristics of people. So in this context, I would say the spiritual world of Russia, sort of. So in this context, when he says spiritual world of Islam, I would take it in a similar manner. I mean, this would be my take, but within context, I guess such a perspective seems to be fitting. And when he says the plan of it, now it talks about, think about like the plan of a car, like the blueprints. So maybe instead of plan, you could have used blueprints. So blueprints of a society, but society in the sense that they are, as a human, what makes human, the characteristics of human. So, and I'm curious, what makes those people as they are? Because since the beginning, what we are saying that human message is required because we would like to see this message in the form of a human. Okay, the messenger is out there, but what else is out there? So the rest of the people that are trained by Quran is also manifestation of this message in the form of human. And this is what I would consider as, or might be considered as, spiritual world of Islam. And we can, I mean, this doesn't negate what Faraz was saying. If you would like to take this as Islam means submission, I would peace or submission, then yeah, definitely, because you are now submitting to your convictions, what you already gathered for yourself, and it is being manifest in your life. When somebody looks at your face, he or she doesn't see this anger or insecurity in you, but you are super in accordance with your creation, you are happy with it, you are, it means that you are manifesting that the message works. It's not just some idea out there, but no, it's really working. This is what I would take from this.
This reminded me, I don't know if I'm taking it wrong, but this reminded me the phrase, the nation of Abraham. So when we say nation of Abraham, obviously we're not talking about a specific person or set of people. But at the same time, we're not talking about birds as well, for instance. And we're not talking about just an abstract notion. It's more about, I don't know, some characteristic of the personality traits, like at the most abstract level, at least the way I see. It's a set of personality traits. It's the set of the kind of behaviors the people would manifest, act. So when he says the spiritual world of Islam, I guess I like it the way you put the characteristics of the people, or characteristics of the personality that I'm eager to reach, that I'm eager to live with. Because in this world, yes, I am concerned about the purpose, I am concerned about the meaning, this is what drives me. But also I am concerned with living in a life that I can hold, at the same time to make sense to me. I want to live with people whose characters touches my spirit, and I am happy. I want to act in a way that I am happy. But when I say I want to act, it's like the material action I'm talking about. The way I eat, the way I drink, the way I sit, or the way the people eat, drink, and sit. I am concerned with that as well. And how these actions, looks at me, how they touches to my spirit.
Can I just add something very quick? So, eating, drinking, walking. What really makes that action, let's say, Islamic or Islami? I think that refers to the first part of the text or the paragraph that we studied. So, and also this reminded me of the Nursi saying that Islam is the supreme humanity. So there is this like utmost potential that a human being can achieve, and that's what Islam is in a way. Actually, it is the blueprint of that like character or of that being. And in order to really achieve that, Quran here, it says like Quran defines the foundation for it, and it defines the roadmap in a way. And in order for example, an action of walking to become Islamic needs to have the understanding of like translating the universe from the Quranic perspective, and also reading the universe in the name of the Creator and extracting the names out of it, so you can establish that relationship with your sustainer.
And I guess this is the reason he says Quran is the foundation of this worldview. Quran is the plan of this worldview. If you follow the Quranic wisdom, or if you follow the Quranic understanding of the world, even the material world that you live in becomes a spiritual Islamic world which looks at your creator. I guess it's really, this reminded me, like even going back to all these previous droplets, what Mursi does, it's really interesting. Right? He starts with a definition of prophethood, which almost makes it, I don't want to be unfair, but almost makes it so abstract. He talks about the tree of prophethood, for instance, the lineage. Or he like at the beginning, he talks about the prophet, and then he talks about prophethood as an institution. So it's some kind of like loses the sense of the material or the sense of the human being. It's something beyond, like everything can be a messenger, which is true. But then, in certain droplets, he also visits Arabian Peninsula, right? I guess, at least the way I see, I might be wrong, the way I see, while he giving like a broader picture, talking about messenger, but then messengerhood, but he also at the same time doesn't want to lose the, I don't want to mean something like different, but I will use these words because I don't know any others, but he doesn't also want to lose the historic part, or he doesn't want to lose the material part. He doesn't want to lose the human part.
Tangible manifestation.
Great, okay, much better than historic, yes. Tangible manifestation aspect, because this is the world I live. At least for now, maybe tomorrow I will think differently, but for now, I'm not, the way scientists say, like, I'm not a cloud of information. I'm a human being. Like I have nerves in my body.
And the guidance claims to be the guidance for mankind is expected to address all those aspects of the human.
Yes. If a guidance comes and tells me, forget about how you live, forget about how you eat, drink, it doesn't matter. All matters is, what you think, how you see the world. You will die, you will become a spirit, just try to become spirit while you're living. I guess it loses some sense.
So I guess in general, in the discussions, maybe since so far, people have been mentioning, not about this discussion, historically, within, let's say, last 2, 3, 5 centuries, this action was being emphasized so much so that meaning was not almost ignored. So we might be having this tendency to emphasize meaning as a response, and this is very much understandable. But when it comes to my human life, what I am sensing is, okay, after the discussion, I go home, but I am still a human. Yes, I definitely need to see the meaning behind them, but I might sometimes, I am finding myself to say that, then how do I respond to my creator? How do I interact with my creator? And when, for example, I see someone who is having a conversation with his life, with his creator through his life, then it really starts making sense to me, because now I am seeing a tangible manifestation of the meaning in front of me. Because the assumption is, if we study the meaning, you yourself go and figure out how to put it into action. But practically, at least for myself, this doesn't work like that. I mean, this is a very maybe honest way of saying it for myself. But one of the things that I'm recently finding out is I need to make dua. But I am finding out that over many years of discussions, whatever, still I'm using the same old high school words. Whatever I was asking my creator in the high school with whatever words, I keep using the same words. Nothing has improved for so many years. So what sort of a relation I was supposed to have with my creator? I mean, this might be my laziness. It might be a totally personal problem. But what I'm seeing in here for myself is I need to get to know how to put it into a tangible. Somebody needs to also teach me how to make it livable. And to me, this really sounds like the spiritual world of Islam. Otherwise, yes, the ideas, the meanings, definitely there has to be there, but I would like to kneel them. I would like to touch them in a sense. And I think this sentence, or at least the way I would like to read this sentence, is pointing to that need of me. Otherwise, things are becoming very much abstract, as you were saying. Not to say that they are bad, they are necessary. But this apparently less necessary thing is being under-mentioned, and it is having a consequence, at least in my personal life.
In the following sentences, I think he's going to talk about the zikr part, the dua part as well.
Oh, nice.
I guess it's becoming a tradition now, closing the discussion with Yusuf. So just to break this...
So I am getting offended. You are using the end of time just to shut my mouth.
No, I would ask someone else to say, to say the closing remarks or the final comment, so that we don't have this ugly tradition of closing the discussion with Yusuf.
Well, I was gonna say I don't think I need to be the last person, but I wanted to Osman's question about why he uses the word Islami. I think the reason being is that what Yusuf was mentioning, if he had used the word Islam, world of Islam, and when I mean that, people might have interpreted it as being the Islamic world and not as like a external sort of reality out there. There are these places where there are people who adhere to Islam. Rather, when he's using it as a descriptive phrase, as Yusuf mentioned, he's talking about really the essence of things and really the Islamic world within one's even own humanity. How do they, and I agree with Yusuf, not only how does one understand the world, but how does one see the Islamic world manifest within his own life? Not just how he perceives it, but how he practices what he understands or engages what he understands at a tangible level as well. So that's what I took away from his use of that word.
So if the moderator allows me for a brief comment, otherwise I can also wait later. Up to you. I will leave to the moderator. I have one comment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess if it's short, yeah.
So the bottom part of the paragraph, there's a line where he says on this page, some he is in need of every hour, like in the name of God. Are people able to identify that sentence? Bottom of the page.
So for some needs, we need right. Yeah, that's how
some he's in need of every hour, like in the name of God. are people just I want to make sure you can identify where the sentence is. And now the comment I want to make is, a lot of times we mention this: understand, meaning extract the divine name, and so on. Again, I have to be brief, so I can't go detail. And the difference between understanding and theoretical, abstract, and practice. And I think this sentence is important if we want to, I can ask myself, do I feel the need every hour for Quran, which the piece of the Quran says, in the name of God, which is the foundation, sun, the plan of spiritual world of Islam, the Quran, which is this Bismillah, is from the Quran. This is the Quran. What is this a plan and foundation of? Is this abstract or is this practical? What does understanding this mean? And briefly, I think when we say this, what I think ought to mean is that it addresses a spiritual need that I am feeling. If I don't feel that need, it is my failure. And I cannot blame understanding for it and start to say that, well, this is abstract, I need to act. It is indeed my failure. The failure is not in not understanding. The failure is not being aware of my need. So any understanding, to the extent that it has a practical, tangible effect in my life, the distinguishing mark of it is not whether it is abstract versus historical or practical. It is whether it addresses a clear, a present need of which I am aware. When Bismillah becomes something I need every hour, it means it addresses a need for me to say, how do I exist right now? Every hour. In whose name do I claim to exist and see and experience, and in whose name do I see this universe existing now, this hour? I have a spiritual need to say, to have an answer to this. Then when I say Bismillah, it's an act, practical, very tangible answer to this need. If it is not an answer to the need, it doesn't matter what I understand or not understand or abstract, it is pointless. So I just wanted to say that what matters is whether I'm aware every hour of my need for Bismillah. Then it is a practical foundation, a plan for a spiritual Islami worldview. If I'm not every hour, he says, aware of this need, Bismillah, doesn't matter whether I know the Prophet said this or he said in this way or something. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make it something, a plan or a foundation of Islamic worldview for me. So that's all I wanted to just briefly comment, and we can talk more later. Thank you so much for allowing me.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.